For most of your life, you were the one people called when something broke. A pipe, a car that wouldn't start, a budget spreadsheet that didn't add up the night before a big meeting, a crisis at work that needed someone steady to walk in, take a breath, and handle it. You were that person, and it felt good, didn't it, being needed? Being the one who could take one look at a mess and know exactly where to start. Maybe it wasn't pipes and engines for you. Maybe it was signatures on the right forms, or the one who remembered every birthday and every appointment, every detail that kept a family running. Whatever the specific shape of it was, the pattern was the same. You were the one things didn't fall apart around. You built a reputation on it, quietly, over decades, without ever calling it a reputation. People just knew. If something was falling apart, they called you. Now you wake up, and the house is the same temperature it always is, and the coffee tastes the same as it did yesterday, and the phone stays quiet, not ringing with a crisis, not ringing with anything. Maybe you still walk through the house some mornings the way you always did, checking the small things, the furnace, the gutter, the lock on the back door, old habits from decades of noticing what everyone else missed. And most mornings, everything is fine. Nothing needs you. That used to be exactly the goal, everything running smoothly. Except now, it just means another day where nobody needs anything from you at all. And for maybe the first time in longer than you can remember, you're the one who doesn't know who to call. That's a strange kind of quiet. Not the quiet of an empty house, though it can feel like that too. It's the quiet of a skill you were never asked to use. Because here's what nobody tells you about this stage of life. It doesn't test whether you can take care of yourself. You already know you can do that. You've been proving it for 40 years, in 100 small ways nobody applauded for, because that was simply what capable people did. It tests something else entirely, something quieter and harder to name, because it doesn't look like weakness from the outside. You tell yourself you're fine, and in most ways you are. You can cook for one. You can manage your own schedule, your own finances, your own repairs. None of that has gotten harder. But there's a particular ache that shows up anyway, usually in the smaller hours, that has nothing to do with competence. It isn't about whether you can survive on your own. You clearly can. It's about something you were never really taught to reach for in the first place. You built a life around being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who didn't fall apart, didn't ask for help, didn't need rescuing. Maybe it started young. Maybe nobody was there to lean on. So you learned early that leaning on yourself was the only option guaranteed to work. Or maybe it was simply how the job demanded you show up, day after day, until it stopped being a role and started being your whole identity. Maybe there was a marriage somewhere along the way that ended, or one that simply outlived its closeness. Maybe the friends who used to fill your weekends moved away, or got busy with grandchildren, or passed on before you were ready to lose them. Or maybe none of that happened at all, and you're simply noticing, for the first time, how much space a career can take up in a life, and how little you built around the edges of it without realizing. And none of that was wrong. That was real. That mattered. People leaned on you because you were someone worth leaning on, and there's a genuine dignity in that. You solved problems other people couldn't. You stayed calm when things fell apart around you. That's not a small thing. That's a life's work, in its own way. But somewhere along the way, being needed quietly became the only kind of connection you really knew how to hold. Every relationship had a shape to it, and in most of them, you were the one doing the holding. It worked for a long time, because there was always a next problem to solve, a next person who needed you to solve it. So when the job ends, and the calls stop, and nobody needs you to fix anything anymore, you're left holding a very specific kind of silence. Not the loneliness people usually talk about, the kind that comes from being forgotten, a quieter version. The loneliness of a person who spent a lifetime being useful and never quite learned how to simply be present with someone, needing nothing at all, wanting nothing but their company. If that's what you're feeling right now, I want you to hear this clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. Self-sufficiency and connection were never the same skill. Being excellent at one tells you nothing about the other, no matter how much it feels like they should be related. You can be remarkably capable, someone other people still quietly admire, and still be completely out of practice at something as simple as picking up a phone first. Maybe you've even had the phone in your hand once or twice, scrolled to an old friend's name, started typing something, and then stopped because some part of you couldn't quite finish the sentence without it sounding like you needed something, and needing something has never come easily to you. Think about how you built that independence. Decades of it, one decision at a time. Every time you solved a problem, instead of asking for help, that muscle got a little stronger. Every time you were the one others turned to, it got stronger again. Nobody sat you down and taught you that skill on purpose. Nobody handed you a manual. Life just kept rewarding it, quietly, over and over, until it stopped being something you did and became who you were. Connection is a different kind of muscle entirely, and most people, the ones who seem to make new friends easily in their 60s and 70s, who call just to talk, who show up on someone's doorstep without being asked twice, had years and years of small, low-stakes practice. Asking for company on a Tuesday for no particular reason. Admitting out loud they were bored, or a little sad, or just wanted to hear another voice. Nobody made a big deal of it when they did. It was just something they did, over and over, quietly, until it became easy, almost invisible. You may have skipped nearly all of that practice, not because something is missing in you, not because you're somehow broken or antisocial or beyond help, simply because you were never in a position where you had to. You were too busy being the one who was needed, and there's no shame in that. It just means one particular muscle never got its turn. So here's the question worth sitting with for a moment. If this is a skill and not a character trait, is it too late to learn it, now, at this stage, after everything? I don't think it is. But I think it starts smaller than you'd expect, and quieter than you'd expect too. It doesn't start with joining a club, or filling your calendar with activities, or forcing yourself into a room full of strangers, though those things can help later, once the muscle has some strength back in it. It starts with one phone call you choose to make, instead of waiting for someone else to make it first. It starts with texting someone you used to work with, not because you need anything from them, but just to say you were thinking about them. It starts with asking a friend how they're really doing, and actually waiting through the pause instead of offering the version of the question that lets both of you off the hook. It starts with letting someone carry something for you, even when you could carry it perfectly well on your own, because connection isn't only built by being useful to someone else. Sometimes it's built the other way around, by letting them be useful to you, and letting that feel okay instead of uncomfortable. It can be as small as saying yes when someone offers to help with something you don't really need help with, just so the offer has somewhere to land. It can be sitting with a neighbor for 20 minutes with no task attached to the visit at all. Nothing to fix, just two people talking. That might feel strange at first, uncomfortable even. It's supposed to. You're waking up a muscle that's been asleep for a long time, and of course it feels stiff when it first moves. But notice what happens the first time you do it anyway. The first time you call instead of waiting to be called. The first time you say, honestly, out loud, I miss talking to people, instead of performing the version of fine you've perfected over the years. Something shifts, small, quiet, but real. And it tends to get a little easier the second time, and easier still the third. Do it enough times, and something quiet starts to change. Not overnight, and not in a way you'd notice day to day. But a year from now, there might be 2 or 3 people who call you first, not because you fixed something for them, but simply because they wanted to hear your voice. That's a different kind of being needed. It might turn out to be the better kind. Strength was never about needing no one. That was always a quiet misunderstanding, one that served you well for a long time, right up until the day it stopped serving you at all. Real strength, at this stage of life, might actually look like the opposite of everything you were praised for. Reaching out first, admitting you want company, being the one who calls, even when nobody is expecting you to, even when there's no crisis to justify it. That's not weakness dressed up as growth. After a lifetime spent being the strong one for everybody else, it might genuinely be the bravest thing you do in this whole chapter of your life. You don't have to become a different person to do this. You don't have to turn into someone who fills every evening with plans, or who suddenly needs a crowd around to feel all right. This isn't about becoming less self-sufficient. It's about adding one more skill to everything you already have, the same way you added every other skill across your working life, by starting small and practicing it on purpose. So think again about that phone, the one that used to ring with people who needed you at every hour for every kind of trouble. It's still quiet some days. That hasn't changed yet, and it might not change overnight, and that's all right. But maybe the story isn't finished. Maybe this time you're not sitting there waiting for it to ring. Maybe this time you're the one who picks it up first. And maybe, for now, that's enough to begin. If this found you somewhere true today, I'm glad you're here. There's more of this waiting for you, whenever you want it.